All right, we are back in session. Moving on to new and unfinished business, we have county and schools project financing, our 2024-28. Who will be rolling with that?
I'm not going to say much other than to introduce Roland Coote, who you all know from Davenport and Company, as our financial advisors, and he will present the results of the bank RFP for both the schools, bond anticipation note, and the counties.
Yeah, thank you, Candy.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Parr and members of the board. It's great to be here in front of you today. As we presented and kind of talked to in the past, this is an update of where we stand with respect to the bank RFP process, with respect to the interim financing for both the social services project on the county side, as well as the schools financing on the school side. This, sorry, couldn't get this. Okay.
I'll advance it.
Okay, if we go to the next slide.
There we go.
Okay, great. So we stand here today as a follow-up to our previous presentations and interactions with the board with respect to debt capacity and affordability analysis, which really has included two projects that we've been really focusing on of late. The construction of the new social services building, the DSS building as we're going to call it here, estimated to be about $9.5 million in terms of the budgeted size there. And also the renovation of the Nelson County High School, estimated to cost approximately $25 million. $2.5 million of that is being funded from grants. So net $22.5 million overall to be the source of funding going forward. And these two projects, as a reminder, fits in the overall debt capacity analysis that we talked to and presented to the board over the past year or so with respect to that, where we showed the county's capacity and affordability to incorporate this level of projects within an overall $57 million maximum capacity. What we're doing today and what we've done is on behalf of the county, we've distributed a request for proposals to over 100 local, regional, and national banking institutions to really go about this initial plan of finance, to provide interim financing for what we're calling the design and startup costs, to really get you to the point where the county would then have known bids in hand and ability to proceed forward with the actual construction and permanent financing of the social services building on the county side, as well as the school board having the funds, the ability to have plans and specs and really be positioned for permanent financing for the school project on the school side. What we're doing and the way we've structured that is in the form of two tax-exempt, what we're calling lease revenue bond anticipation notes. The $2.5 million portion is really for the high school portion, and the $1.7 million portion is for the county's portion. So independently, we can track spending on both of those because ultimately, as we presented to the board in the past, they could involve two separate financing vehicles. The county side could potentially go through VRA. VRA, Virginia Resources Authority, can do all sorts of governmental projects except for schools. And the school side would go through potentially Virginia Public Schools Authority, can do only schools. So that's why we're keeping them separate and distinct for purposes of the county and really tracking that forward for permanent financing. Amanda, if you'll advance to the next page. So what we did is we went through an RFP process where we requested potentially what's called a direct bank loan with a final maturity of approximately 2 years. That is to provide sufficient time in terms of the final maturity so that we could put in place the permanent financing. It's expected to be spring of next year, about this time, probably just before June of next year, if all goes well according to the design, the bidding, and so forth for both projects. This would allow the county to proceed forward with all the A&E and engineering work, preliminary costs, to get you to the point where you would have the firm bids in hand and be able to know what you're going to finance for each project. It also allows you to take advantage of the current interest rate environment. Right now, as you may be aware, interest rates have been going up, so the reinvestment rates, when you look at this, provides a natural what we'll call arbitrage. The ability for the county to keep its fund balance intact, and keep its reserves actually working for you in terms of generating interest income at a higher rate that you're paying on the bond anticipation note. So when all things being equal, if I could use other people's money and make more money on mine, that's a natural recommended plan of finance to undertake. Ultimately, the interim financing will be, as we've said, permanently financed and rolled into the long-term funding vehicles, whether they be VRA, VPSA, or some other form of financing that the county undertakes. The RFP also contemplated the use, because we're financing school needs as well, naturally using the Ty River Elementary School as collateral for these two notes. That's typical and standard in a lease revenue transaction. The good thing is, once we roll into a permanent financing, that collateral gets freed up, so that the Ty River is not permanently encumbered in any sort of financing. So it's really just a temporary kind of bridge vehicle, and allows that extra security and collateral that banks look for in terms of bank financing. The county previously did this with its 2022 bond anticipation note, so it's not atypical, and this financing would go through the Economic Development Authority. So they're the actual issuer. The county then is a party to that transaction as well, as is the school board, because the school board is providing the collateral. So on this page, we have a comparison of the proposals that we received from 4 banking institutions. A summary of those proposals that you can see here, we've listed them from First National Bank being, what I'll call one of the proposers here, not only having the lowest interest rate, but providing the most flexibility. Then you have the other 3 after that, Truist Bank, US Bank, and Webster Bank, really providing the same sort of interim financing, but they're all providing a form of financing that's called a drawdown at closing, or truly a bond anticipation note that would be fully funded at closing. First National Bank provided that alternative, but they also provided for the ability to draw down as you need to. So kind of like a line of credit, or really a construction loan concept. That the great feature of that is, as the county spends, then the county can reimburse itself and kind of use that line of credit and only pay interest on the amounts that you're drawing down. So when we think about that maximum annual interest cost, you could see that at 4.7%, that's roughly $117,000 on the school side and about $80,000 on the county side. That's if everything was drawn at closing and everything is being paid for a year. As you draw that down, it's naturally going to be less than that. So we would estimate, on a reasonable basis, that interest expense could be half of that, in the first year as we're drawing this down. So really a cost-effective financing vehicle. And again, on that $4.2 million we're looking at, that allows the county to preserve its cash and earn in excess of 4.7% on its cash with respect to current reinvestment opportunities today. And that's standard reinvestment opportunities such as local government investment. So that can be. The great thing about the First National Bank, again, with that flexibility, but also the ability to prepay in whole or in part with no penalty. So if things were to happen faster, if we were to be in a position to have to get out of this quicker, then we can prepay it without any penalty and no unforeseen costs with respect to that. The other 3 banks had some elements of what we call call protection, or a lockout window with respect to prepaying. So they had some provisions where you couldn't prepay, say for 6 months without any penalty, or upwards of 1 year to 18 months. So First National Bank, when you stack all those side by side, really came in at the best terms and conditions and the lowest cost. So on the next page, Amanda. So our recommendation here is respectfully recommending that the county move forward with the First National Bank line of credit proposal, because it meets all of the county's goals and objectives, really lowest cost form of financing, allowing you to take advantage of your own money in terms of reinvesting. The ability to prepay anytime at par without penalty, and ability to draw down as needed. so really kind of minimizing the interest expense on this interim financing. With respect to the schedule, as a reminder, we're here today for the board's resolution to proceed forward for this. The next two actions that are required is the EDA board approval of its resolution, as well as the school board considering the approval of its documents and collateral to use to secure this bond anticipation debt line of credit. And we would anticipate then closing by April 30th. Funding would be in place at that time, and then the county could access those funds as it's needed to spend down on both of those projects, both on the school side as well as the county side. And I think what I'd also like to say is that this financing, because we're not using any sort of county facility with respect to DSS or anything like that, so we're not using any collateral on the county side, we're actually using the school side. There's no issue with respect to any location for the DSS building might be or any sort of property constraints there. So that's independent, totally independent of this financing, and it's not an issue with respect to this. So with that, I'd like to take any questions.
I know this is new policy, and I'm not sure if it happened or not. Did the governor sign into place the 1% sales?
No, he did not,
No.
he vetoed it.
You vetoed it? Gotcha.
So yeah, there's a push to contact legislators.
Okay. I was just curious because if that had happened after the referendum. Okay. I was just curious. All right.
If we should adopt this and pass the resolution, will you be at the EDA meeting tomorrow?
Yes, we're planning to be at the EDA meeting and also the school board meeting.
Okay, great. Great.
So what's the cost to you all to do this?
So
And is it wrapped into this?
all the closing costs are wrapped into this financing. We've got bank closing costs, bond counsel closing costs, and the financial advisor all rolled into this at closing. So with respect to that, this fully funds the closing costs, and the county would not have to pay, say, out of its budget for anything from a closing cost perspective.
Yeah, but- Okay.
The board does, you do have that information at your tables there.
I think there's a handout, a spreadsheet
Yeah.
printout that shows
Yes,
financial
the
advisory
total cost
costs.
of issuance would be about $90,000, which includes, like Roland said, Davenport's cost, the bond counsel's cost, lender's counsel, and a contingency amount, just in case there was some fluctuation there. So this is an estimate, it's not
Yeah, it's
the
an estimate.
exact cost, but
Again, thinking about the return to investment of its funds, the comparable, just think about it from this perspective, by being able to preserve your cash and earn at, say, upwards of 5 to 5.5% in terms of funds, that's about $200,000 in terms of interest earnings by preserving your county funds.
Also, the impression we have a decent amount of funds not growing that much.
What'd you say, Jessica?
I can't remember the number, but there was a decent amount of money that was growing at like 2%
You're talking about the counties.
Might have been a money market account or something.
LGIP, which most, if not all, large, I'm not going to say all treasurers, but a large proportionate share of the treasurers across the Commonwealth typically can invest and do invest in local government investment pool. That local government investment pool, which is run by the Treasury, the Department of Treasury, is currently earning about 5.4%. So when you think about reinvestment of county funds, taking advantage of that kind of reinvestment rate, relative to borrowing rates, you can see where the spread can be. You can earn more than you would pay on this type of facility.
We have 6.6 million growing at pretty much 2%, a little over 2%.
Cheapers. Is that, where is that?
That seems
Yes.
low.
Yeah,
really
that
low.
seems really low.
That's really low.
Um,
Money markets pay more than that.
Yeah.
Well, one's in a money market at 2.02%, and then we have CDs with an average rate of 2.46%.
Maybe that's
So,
something we can
It's not
I
quite,
think-
look at.
I think you
is
should
there
be.
anything there for LGIP on that? email.
LGIP, we have 12,419,000 at 5.49%.
Better.
That's.
And then we have a Virginia investment pool at 6.6 million at 5.5%.
Yeah, put it all there.
Yeah, there's your arbitrage kind of balancing.
I guess we probably have to have a certain percentage of our stuff liquid, like in the money market
There are
for,
definitely rules that the treasurer,
Yeah.
she has an investment policy that she has to adhere to, based on, I think, state
Yeah,
and other.
and LGIP is, as long as it's not the extended maturity program, whether it's Virginia Government Investment Pool or LGIP, the regular LGIP is liquid pretty much on 24 hours notice.
oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
You can't. I'd put it.
I mean, but do you speak to our treasurer about those things, or?
We've not, we brought in from time to time with the county and the treasurer. We do work with a lot of treasurers and help them think about investment strategy. That's something we'd be glad to do,
Yeah.
but, you know, we don't want to
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
push ourselves on it.
part of the sales pitch is that we can make money on money and we're not.
Yeah, with LGIP, you are actually, as long as you've got the money in there at 5.4 or whatever the number is right now, current LGIP rates are in that range. And that's what it's doing. By doing this, you're preserving that 4.7 roughly in LGIP. If you didn't do this, you'd be pulling that out and having to spend on this, and then your interest earnings would then be going down directly.
Well, I mean,
So-
LGIP is almost essentially liquid if you can get a hold of it in 24 hours.
That's,
You
that's,
should
yeah, you should be able to
needing that
know
money.
if you need
Yeah.
$1 million in 24
$6
hours.
million,
Yeah, I'd throw that
5%
money in
is
LGIP and
Mhm.
pump.
Yeah.
just.
I mean, one of the things we're doing with local governments, we just started with one of the counties in Southwest Virginia, one of our very good clients, is a optimization of investment management. And we do have an analytical program that can do that. So we'd be glad to work with county staff and maybe introduce the concept if the treasurer's willing to think about it. And, go from there.
Right, we can certainly do that and see where it goes with the treasurer. It's ultimately up to her as
Yeah.
to where the county's money is invested and how much. And
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the receptivity in terms of.
Right,
of the,
right, we can certainly have that conversation.
I mean, lack of repeating myself, it's part of the sales pitch, right? Just saying.
And you are, and this would allow you to maintain and keep, and take that that tact. I mean, this is working, does appear to be working, and would work with the fact that you've got money in LGIP as well as the Virginia investment pool. So that's your money working for you, and this would allow you to maintain that money working for you. If we didn't do this, then you'd be drawing that down, which would, reduce your interest earnings, affecting, pretty much probably the 2025 budget would reduce some of that interest earnings.
All right, so are we ready for a motion to approve Resolution R 2024-28? I'll entertain a motion.
Ernie?
I'll make that motion that we adopt Resolution R 2024-28, Nelson County Board of Supervisors authorizing financing.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Amanda?
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
yes,
Dr. Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Park?
Yes. Thank you.
everybody.
Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Got a busy schedule.
We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Next, moving on to real estate tax exemption applications.
All right, I'll just introduce this item fairly briefly. The Commissioner received 2 applications for tax exemption, one for the University of Virginia Physicians Group and one for the University of Science and Philosophy. Procedurally, the Commissioner reviews these applications, goes on site and reviews the properties, and then provides the board with her recommendation. And then these come to the board. So that is the point in the procedure that we are at. Ms. Goff is here to answer any questions about the letter she provided to you and her recommendations. We have Mr. Payne here to answer any legal questions you might have. But as far as action, the board could table this and take no action. If you're going to take action, the action to be taken would be to authorize a public hearing on these tax exemption applications. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Goff to speak with you.
Good afternoon. Okay, the first one is the University of Physicians Group. They're over in Millis Ford. So the University of Virginia Physicians Group is seeking exemption on the grounds that the property is used as a medical provider's office and to educate medical providers. I visited the property, and it's in fact a doctor's office. So my recommendation is this entity does not meet any of the requirements for the exemption under the Code of Virginia, 58.1, 3606, and 3651. For their application, they said the property is used as a medical provider's office and to educate medical providers. That's about it on that one.
So, so in order for it to qualify for the exemption, it has to educate,
Primarily, the education.
primarily be education?
Yes, correct, Phil, primarily education.
I wish that answer could be that simple.
Yeah.
Piece of paper.
Okay. Okay, so incorporated colleges or other institutions of learning not conducted for profit.
So it doesn't meet it under that criteria.
Right.
Is Blue Ridge Medical Center exempt?
How are they not? Well, they're not a university.
Well, I know, but they train
Yeah.
people essentially every day. I don't think it qualifies.
Any other comments? Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So that's it for this one then. The other one, when I did the letter, it was actually 24 tax map numbers, 4 houses, and 20 wooded land with no buildings. They have since sold 6 of the wooded areas, so it's a little bit less. But it's the University of Science and Philosophy. They're up in Swannanoa area. They're seeking exemption based on education, seeking exemption based on meeting rooms and lodging space for students and faculty, seeking exemption based on meeting rooms and lodging rooms for students and guests free of charge, seeking exemption based on 467 Russell Way, has a private burial ground where the founders are buried. The founders, I mean, I've got, and you all may have some of this information, but it's a home study course. They actually have a museum in Waynesboro. The founders are buried there, which is the Russells. It's a couple, and they started Swannanoa, Walter Russell and Leo Russell. So it's a pretty small cemetery. It's 3 burial sites, maybe 12 by 12, and it's right up on a hill from one of the houses. So basically, house number 1, this property, so I went and visited the houses. This property is currently being renovated due to water damage. It is empty at this time, but will be used for a guest house and also to house students. House number 2, it's currently lived in by an Arthur. House number 3 is currently being renovated due to water damage. It's empty at this time, but it will be used for the executive director. House number 4, this house is lived in by an employee. The burial ground is on the hill of this property located behind the house. So I have written, visited the property and observed the above. This entity does not meet the requirements for exemption under Code of Virginia 58.1, 3606, and 3651. It may be possible for the county assessor to look at the burial ground during the next county assessment and make a portion of that exempt for cemetery. So it was 4 houses, and we visited each one of them. So that's it for that, basically.
Does not meet.
Yep.
Good enough.
Any questions or comments? And Ernie?
Maybe this is for Phil. If we take no action on this, the applicants could have some recourse against us to try to compel us to do it.
They can't compel you to do
Can or can't?
it, cannot.
Can
Oh.
We're good.
That's as far as I'll go in public. Cannot compel you to do it.
I'm not
Gotcha.
compelled.
How about the cemetery? Because what under code, nonprofit, private, or public burying grounds or cemeteries, would that be something that we need to look at, or?
That's a Phil question.
Does that
Which,
Private cemeteries are not taxed.
So they can just tell
They know
you,
it's there. I mean, it's
we don't,
blocked off.
we don't have to do anything on that for cemeteries.
Yeah, that's really,
That's-
that's commissioner dealing with.
okay, so I could have the assessor look, okay, okay.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah, so we don't need to take any action.
okay. So I will let both of these know that they did not qualify, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. This is your
Thank you
first?
so much.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the very first one.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you, thank you. All right, next we have Livingston Logo Usage Agreement, R 2024-29. Maureen, come on up.
Hello, good afternoon. Today, we'd like to move forward on the logo, on the usage of the logo. You have, I believe in the packet, a resolution that authorizes us to execute an agreement. Thank you, Mr. Payne, for your work on that.
I'm happy with this. I think it's good. Good for the community. I know there's a lot of individuals in the community who are ready to utilize it best they can. Mr. Chair, when you're ready, make the motion.
Yeah, hold up. I noticed in here, there wasn't any reference to, it just says full color.
You could do black and white. You could do-
Yes, it says either single or full color. It must not be scaled disproportionately. So what I don't want to see us do is, I don't want somebody to be able to turn that into a red and blue logo. You know, I don't want them to be able to make this orange and blue and turn it into we need to make sure it's either black and white, or it's these colors, and those colors be specified with the 6-digit code. Okay, so you'll hold that
Yes, sir.
in your approval process?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And what I is in there is also, I will see a proof of your digital object. In other words, so I can compare the numbers and the.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was getting at, because I'm just kind of picky about that branding stuff, so. All right, that was my only question. Anybody else have questions? I'll entertain a motion that we approve.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Livingston Logo Usage Agreement R 2024-29.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Ligon?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work on this. It looks fantastic. Excited to see the T-shirts and the stickers.
Hats.
And hats, yes. Next, we have authorization for public hearing on FY '25 budget, R 2024-30.
All right. So this, I'm just following along with our calendar here. We have on the calendar to authorize a budget public hearing for May 14th. However, I might like to recommend to the board that this be maybe considered at a later date. Potentially, the last date for a public hearing could be June 4th if you wanted to still keep the budget adoption at the June 11th regular meeting. You just need 7 days between the budget public hearing and budget adoption. And we have to have an approved budget by the end of June. I just think that would give staff more time. It would give the board more time to work through some of the remaining pieces of the budget. We have a budget work session on Thursday, and you also have a public hearing on the tax rate. At that point, the commissioner has told me she needs the tax rates by the 30th. So that would give you a little bit more time to kind of finalize things before going to public hearing.
So
just
what
kinda
date,
wanna
what did
get
you propose?
June 4th, it's the Tuesday before the June 11th regular meeting. So that would give you the 7 days you would need.
I'm fine with that.
Yep, I don't have a problem with it.
You could hold the public hearing on the 11th and then come back a week later and adopt the budget, either way. But
So I have a couple opportunities. I'm fine with that.
The 18th is a busy day already. Yeah.
the what day?
The 18th is a busy day already of June. Is that what you were saying?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, sorry. That
You were
was the
looking
last
at June.
statement,
You were
yes.
saying instead of the 4th and the 11th, you were saying the 11th and the 18th.
Correct.
Yeah.
yes.
No, I say we go with the 4th and the 11th.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Any problem? We good? All right, make it so.
Would you like to consider authorizing that tonight or today? We could change the date of
Just
May
change the date.
14th to June 4th.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I can make that motion.
Yes, we will entertain a motion for resolution R 2024-30 as amended.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-30 to June the 4th at 7.
Correct, it'd be at 7 PM here in the
Second.
general district courtroom.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Liggins?
Yes.
Mr. Park?
Yes. All right, so budget,
Thank you.
yes. 4th at 7. Okay,
Thank you.
got
Appreciate
that.
that.
Yes, ma'am. All right, next we will move on to reports, appointments, directives, and correspondence. You want to have a report?
I might be first on the report.
Yes, you go that, yeah, you go for, I was thinking correspondence. Yeah,
Okay.
your report.
All right. Hopefully you have a copy of my report at your seats, and it might have been emailed out to you a day or so ago. As far as the comprehensive plan, the board, as you know, held your public hearing on March 20th. Considering proposed amendments to the draft plan as a result of the public hearings is to be considered at the evening session today. Staff has prepared an adoption resolution for the board's consideration tonight. Following adoption of the plan, which you do not have to adopt the plan tonight, but it is, we do have the resolution prepared. But following adoption of the plan, next steps are to consider proposed zoning and/or subdivision ordinance amendments that have been identified by Berkeley Group as bringing ordinances in line with the adopted comprehensive plan. The Livingston Front Street Sidewalk Improvement TAP Grant is in the Commonwealth Transportation Board's hands. This project is part of the draft 6-year improvement plan that will be considered for approval by the CTB. The Lynchburg District Spring Secondary, or 6-year improvement plan public hearing meeting will start at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, May 1st, at the Lynchburg District Office in the Ramey Memorial Auditorium. Formal public comments on all district projects proposed to be included in the plan will be accepted at the meeting. You can also provide written comments or submit them to an email. It's 6-yearprogram@vdot.virginia.gov. This can be done afterwards and up through May 20th, 24. So the Route 151 through truck restriction, I don't have any change in status. Going to be delegating this responsibility from administration to planning and zoning, and hopefully Dylan and her staff can get this moving along. The report, excuse me, on the Livingston System Water and Sewer Capacity Study. The consultant CHA has the needed data from the Service Authority. They've completed the summary of their current water sewer usage, have developed a preliminary water sewer demands on the Larkin property, and are consulting with our GIS staff on getting some additional data. So once all this data is assembled, county and NCSA staff and CHA will meet prior to them issuing their report. The Savion Wild Rose Solar Project is moving forward. The special use permit application is forthcoming. It's proposed for the Gladstone area of the county. Staff and Mr. Payne met with the Savion staff and their legal team for an initial siting agreement discussion. They will be providing the county with a proposed agreement in the next 1 to 2 weeks for review by county staff, Mr. Payne, and preferably 2 board members, ideally Chair Parr and Dr. Ligon, who's the South District Supervisor. So we'll need your consensus on participation with that. The full board would then review the final draft of the siting agreement and authorize a public hearing on the document. Work on the siting agreement is anticipated to be done concurrently with the special use permit application's progress through the Planning Commission and then to the board. So ideally, this will culminate in concurrent public hearings held on each item. So the public hearings would be held on the same night, but each one would have its own separate hearing. The transfer of funds from the Nelson County Broadband Authority that were approved at the January 24 NCBA meeting, those funds have been transferred. We have not yet appropriated them for use within the FY24 general fund budget. However, they can be appropriated either for a specific purpose as directed by the board or to the county's non-recurring contingency. If not appropriated for use within this year's budget, these funds will just become part of the general fund balance or reserve. Of course, the board could decide to pull it into the FY25 budget for something specific if you so desire. I have a couple things to add that weren't on the report. And we got notice from VDOT that they're considering the turn lane improvement project on Route 29 northbound at the intersection with Route 653 at Oak Ridge Road. This proposed project will improve capacity, enhance safety by extending the existing right turn lane on Route 29 northbound and realigning Oak Ridge Road at the intersection to improve sight distance and enhance the right turn movements. They've issued a notice of willingness to hold a design public hearing on this project. If your questions or concerns can't be satisfied, then we can request a public hearing. I just wanted to let you all, I think you all received some information about that by email. I received a short status on the Heritage Center and Health Department relocation from Ms. Burdette this morning. Her bullet points say that they have finally been able to close on their loan with Locust Bank, which is formerly BCC. Wall construction has resumed work on the renovation project. They're working on a revised project schedule with a completion date of July 31st, 2024. They have communicated with VDH the change in date, and it seems everyone is on board with that. She says they have weekly meetings with VDH and Department of General Services to provide real-time updates and ensure everyone is on the same page. So she says she's happy to present a more detailed update to the board upon request. So, and that's all I have. If you have any questions on this or anything else, happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. McGarry?
I've got a question on item E. When your report says there's concurrent public hearings, that means that that the board would do a public hearing both on the SUP application and the siting agreement?
Yes.
Two separate ones on the
There would be
same?
two separate ones on the same night.
What
That's
about the
goal.
planning commission?
The planning commission would have their own first. It would flow through the exact same SUP process.
Got it, okay,
They just don't get the citing agreement. That's the board's piece. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Does that have a date in it? No, I didn't think so.
As far as the committee meeting on the citing agreement?
Well, and any work that Dr. Ligon and I would be doing with them on the project. I mean, when,
No, they expect to have us, an agreement to review 1 to 2 weeks, so as soon as we have it, we can, get something scheduled.
okay, I just didn't know if I need to put something on calendar now.
Yeah, not quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now we have board reports. Dr. Ligon, you have anything to share? Ernie?
You know, I don't.
No? Jesse?
Other than VDOT, we met with some constituents, something that I've learned referencing old VDOT easements is their by right-of-ways that the board somewhere around Camille time just voted to not do maintenance on them anymore because of a huge exodus. And I've come to realize that there's probably close to about 5 or 6 roads just in my district alone that were impacted by this. And it's started to create a hamper on individuals who may have had legacy property back there where there's no road maintenance agreement, so there's no recourse for anyone to maintain anything. So if you're at the very end, it's been a maintenance nightmare. So kind of learned a little bit of the loops on that. Beyond that, I don't think I have too much to report. TJPDC meeting was easy, so I don't reference.
Mr. Harvey?
Nothing to report.
Have we met since the last social service?
I do
Yes.
have something to report.
Mr. Rutherford?
Skylar has 5G cell service now.
Yes, we all know.
That's a
No,
huge
that is
thing.
awesome. That is
pretty
awesome.
exciting. All right,
Yeah.
now I'm done.
You done?
I'm done now.
Okay.
I have a
Have-
question about jail board. When were they meeting and, because they're voting on funding and things soon.
Okay, so the last jail board meeting, we voted on the interim financing for the renovation project. So that was approved. The next one is Thursday, and I believe we're considering adoption of the FY '25 budget. I think that's the only action item for next Thursday.
Good.
Yeah, and so our responsibility to them is no more financially currently yet.
I believe we have put in the FY '25 budget a small amount of interest-only payment on the interim financing. It was, I believe, I want to say 38,000 potentially of the total amount to go to the jail for FY '25. And that amount will increase, I believe it'll be over a couple $100,000 once we start paying the full principal and interest for the project.
Thank you.
So, have we had a meeting since the last social services where they had all the new employees show up? Have I told you? So social services, I think they have 5 new employees, and just the energy of that group coming in is pretty amazing. Several young people, a couple of native Nelsonians on staff, and Brad has just done a fantastic job, and Allison of recruiting and hiring and getting these people up and running. So if you see either of the two of them or both of them, you might want to mention that they've done a fantastic job. So that's all I have. EMS hasn't met since we've had a meeting, so I've updated you on anything from that. All right, appointments, looks like we don't have anything, still waiting on some advertising, so
We're still
Nothing new.
advertising those vacancies. Have not gotten any applications. Ag and Forestal is coming up, but the two current vacancies are the NACA Board of Directors and the EDA for Mr. Hall's position. We will in the next 2 months see several expiring terms, EDA, Service Authority, and I'll have those for you next month, and we'll be advertising those. And we have some folks already interested in serving again in their positions, so we'll have more next month.
And have we, in addition to the advertising, have we done any sort of outreach? I'm thinking Ag Forestal District. Have we maybe reached out to Farm Bureau or anybody to see?
We can try that. That would be a good suggestion, so
Yeah.
certainly glad to do that.
And is EDA tied to districts like our, they're
by
not?
district. Anywhere. in
They're all
those.
at large? Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Correspondence? Anybody have any correspondence to share? Directives? Anybody have anything? All right, then we will continue this meeting. I'll entertain a motion. We continue until the evening session at 7 PM.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this meeting until 7.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.